Good morning. This is Trang Vo at the California ISO. Thank you for joining us for the Release User Group on February 4, 2025. This call and webinar will be recorded and published. Actually, the presentation is already available on the release planning page. That was posted yesterday. It should be processed by now. And then the call will be published after today's call as well. Right? Okay, so without any further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. We'll start with the release plan summary. So for independent 2025 releases, the FERC Order 2023 Generator Interconnection Lifecycle Release 2.1, which was an internal release, was implemented in January. And then we have our highest emergency rating. It's targeted between February and March for activation. And then CPM enhancements, track 1 for April. We have hybrid resources phase 2C for REMS in April, and then the CRR upgrade also at the end of April. For July, we have our FERC 881 implementation for managing transmission line ratings, track 2. And then we still have schedules to be determined for enabling NGRs for physical trace, and then the WEIM FAB enhancement. You'll see a new category here today for fall 2025 release. So we have a couple of items that are tentatively planned for the typical annual functional release timeline of fall 2025, which usually activates on October 1st. We have subscriber participating transmission owner model. So we've had this in the release plan for some time as a future release. I wanted to share that we are targeting the fall 2025 release for that implementation. However, that is subject to additional release planning and further schedule build out. For transmission exchange agreement, you're also familiar with that initiative, and we are closely coordinating with WAPA on that implementation. And so the latest update for the schedule is that we are shifting the TEA effort from an independent timeline to align with, again, our traditional fall release with a market simulation in July through August, and then an activation by October 1st. And then for spring 2026 release, the scope there remains the same for DAME and EDAM, EDAM ISO-BA participation rules, and then our EDAM onboarding and WEIM onboarding. And then for our future releases, we have a placeholder here for transmission service and market scheduling priorities, track 4, and then the settlement upgrade project, which we don't have any updates today, but we will plan, or we hope to be able to provide a more meaningful update for settlement upgrade by April of this year, if not sooner. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to stakeholder comments and what is available. So we had a couple of comment periods closed for BRSs, and then also so we have the DAME version 1.4 BRS. That comment period closed on the 24th. And then we have the EDAM ISO-BA participation rules version 1.3 comment period closed on January 24th. So you'll see that we opened up a new comment period as communicated in the last release user group. We posted a revision of EDAM ISO-BA participation rules BRS version 1.4. And that is open through February 21st. We do ask that you start your review of that now because the changes are fairly minor. So the changes were adding calculation examples and then updating the cross-references to the EDAM implementation BRS. So there's not substantial changes there. So those that were looking to comment in the period for 1.3, you can continue to include any of the comments to date on EDAM ISO-BA participation rules BRS up through 1.4. So please leverage this comment period that's open. And then for upcoming, we have the EDAM version 1.4 BRS, and that is planned for publication by February 21st, and that will have an associated comment period as well. All right. So let's go right into our independent release section. So we'll start with FERC 2023, the generator interconnection life cycle. So I'll go to the, actually just here under releases, we did update for release 2.1. That's the second section from the bottom that did get implemented on January 23rd. And again, that was more of an internal change for the ISO. And then just a reminder that we do have additional releases for FERC 2023, and those will add to the engagement window in Q1 of this year, the cluster study process module and generator interconnection agreement module in Q3, and then the infrastructure coordination model in Q4. And then ultimately, we will have the existing RIMS app and study data migrated to the new GRIP platform in late 2025. So I will leave this initiative in the RUG presentation to give more visibility to the additional releases planned for Q1, Q3, and Q4 this year, as well as the migration of the existing legacy data. Any questions or comments on FERC 2023? Okay. All right. So we'll move on to HER. All right, so the updates here are to the integrated market simulation and the production timeline. So at this time, the market simulation target is February 10th through the 21st, and then that would yield a production activation by March 6th. So again, the code is in production to inactive. And for map stage, the OMS UI and API with the HER changes has been there since last year for what we're considering connectivity. And we have yet to kick off the fully integrated formal market simulation. And again, that's planned for February 10th, and we will communicate that out when we open that officially. Okay. All right, any questions or comments on highest emergency rating? Okay, so move on to hybrid resources 2C for RIMS. So again, we're picking up momentum on this initiative. And so the 3 milestones on the bottom are what we want to touch on today. So we do plan to provide more shapefile communication in our RUG and TUG forums, as well as in the market simulation calls. So that's slated for Q1. And that is to support the preparation for market simulation that is planned for March 13th through March 19th. And again, that's to validate the shapefile process. And then for production activation for this RIM scope, we're planning for April 9th of this year. Any questions or comments on hybrid resources 2C? And then for those that are have FSPs or are engaged from that perspective, we also plan to present some information in the forecast scheduling provider forums as well for this initiative. Okay. All right. So I'll move on to the next initiative for CRR upgrade. So this is a significant one that I think a lot of you are engaged in, so I'll get straight to the milestones here. All right, so starting from the CPG, the next one is February 27. Those are about monthly, and then you can always refer to the materials from the last CPG on the CPG page. So for market simulation activities, you can see that we plan for the CRR Market UI to be available for connectivity starting yesterday, and then the B2B API for the one first enablement to be available as of yesterday. So I do want to give an update is that for our testing that has completed to make the UI available, and we did start that process yesterday, however, it is taking more time. So for the UI, that is planned to be available by 11 o'clock today, so that work is finishing up now to get that fully open, and then we will send out an announcement about within the hour to confirm once it is open on our side and once we are able to validate that. So thank you for your understanding and your patience on the UI availability for CRR. We are so close. And again, we're just working through the final kinks, and that should be resolved by 11. And you will receive a notice from us once you should be able to access that CRR UI. For the B2B API, for the first enablement, there is one service that is available right now for the API, so you can test that as well, and that will also be included in the notice that I sent out to just recap by service level and by interface what is available for connectivity. And then you can see that next, by the 7th, we do plan on releasing the rest of the APIs. And again, once I send the notice out by noon today, or within the next hour, hopefully, then that'll give you more granular details about what's available in MapStage. Okay, and then the market simulation schedule has not changed, so that's referenced there below, and then for production, the cutover is now April. All right. Any other questions or comments that I can take about CRR? I know a lot of folks are waiting to get their hands into the UI, and we're hoping that you'll be able to get to that pretty soon this morning. But any other questions that I can field right now for this? All right. Chen-Yu, please go ahead.
Good morning, Chen. This is Chen-Yu from PG&E. Do you mention that around 1, we shall be able to see the notice, disregard whether it's ready or not ready, right? The MUI and the first batch of the API.
Yes, that is right. I'm hoping to get a notice out to you even before noon, and that notice will tell you to announce that the UI is available, and then to also announce the availability of the one API in that first enablement. So, yes. And then, does that help, Chen-Yu?
Yeah. You say one API instead of a first batch of API. Is that, or
the
maybe
first batch is one. The first batch that we're considering is just one API.
Okay.
And then the second batch will be the remaining. Yeah, and that detail by service will be outlined in my announcement as well.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then Israel, I did get your message. I'll make sure that you're included in that notice as well. Deborah, please go ahead.
I think that was sort of my same question. What distribution list is this going to be going to?
Yeah, thank you. So it's for those that are registered for simulation and those that have engaged with us via the CPG as well. So Deborah, you are definitely on the list. I have confirmed that already. So we'll make sure that you get that notice.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. All right. Any other questions on this? Okay, let me just check the chat. Okay. All right. And we'll go ahead and move on to FERC 881. Okay, so you can see the milestones that are upcoming. So we have a draft tariff filing planned for middle of February, and then after that, we'll have a period for FERC to review and then provide a response. And then for the BRS for Track 2 updates, we have that also planned in mid-February to align with our tariff filing that we will make. And then for market simulation for WebLine R, as you know, we did open up the UI for use in MapStage. And then we have training that there will be a notice that's planned to go out today to announce the WebLine R training that will happen on February 19th. And so we'll continue having the WebLine R UI available in MapStage, and that's available now. And then we'll have the training February 19, and then we will plan to make the Webline our new APIs available in middle of March. And so, the training will give you more information about how to use that new system and then get you prepared for the formal market simulation period once that begins. Okay, for track 2, we're still planning for a June implementation, and then for track 3, there's going to be a phased implementation January through July. And then as part of our filing, we will be asking for extension for some of the implementation, and so more to come on that. But we did have just recently a stakeholder call that's available on the stakeholder page for FERC 881, so you can refer to that for more discussion about the 881 tariff revisions. Okay. And then we have a lot of supporting information for 881 that I'm not going to go over in detail, but they're here in the published presentation for your reference, as well as the visual with the timeline. And again, that February 2025 training is confirmed for February 19. All right, and this is the overview of the timeline there. And then also in the last stakeholder call, we did get a lot of questions about where to engage for the FERC 881 implementation. So I put this reference together for the purposes, the different forums, and then the purposes of those as opportunities to engage to be more connected with the 881 implementation and be more involved in that. Okay. And then just a couple more slides, and then I'll take some hands. So for the implementation of WebLine-R, so WebLine-R is just one system within the 881 implementation, so it's a new system here. And so we got a lot of questions about that, so I also put this together to communicate the different items that are available, references that are available, and then what's upcoming, and then some guidance on how to, again, use those and what the purpose of each of those are. So for 881, we have the BRS, and then we have our production AIM system, which you should use to provision access to WebLine-R, and then we have the API documentation. So some of you will refer to them as tech specs. Those are available on the dev site. And then we also have new artifacts for the REST API services. So we have tutorials on the dev site that you can leverage for guidance on how to use the API mock services. And then we have the UI and map stage, as I mentioned, which is available. And then the WebLine-R API is planned for availability mid-March in the map stage environment. Okay. And then just another reference is that when it comes to provisioning access or what's expected for access, this is from the BRS this matrix will show you what the access levels are and expectations too. So a lot of good material there for those that are engaging. Okay. All right, so Deborah, you still have a hand up. I think that is old, but please interrupt me if otherwise. Okay, and Felda, can you please go ahead?
Hi, good morning, Trang. This is Felda with PG&E. I'm just wondering if you have an insight that you can share with us on what would be included on that BRS version 1.2.
Sorry, for 881?
For order 881, yes, correct. Because I think, yeah, there would be another update for the BRS that would be published or scheduled to be published in mid-February.
Yeah, that's right. So the guidance that I can give you is that if it will be, a lot of that will be to align with the items that we are going to put in our filing in mid-February for the tariff revisions. And so I think that there were some clarifications that we made that we went over in detail that relates to the tariff filing that we plan to do, but then the BRS obviously would align with that. And so I think that's the substantial update. So if you refer to the stakeholder call that we had, I think it was maybe not last Friday, but the Friday before, and follow that discussion about the changes that we're making in the tariff. That will give you a good sense of what will also follow in the BRS revision.
Got it. Thank you. And then this might be preliminary, but if FERC approved the request for an extension, would there be like a delay in terms of when Track 3 will start?
So I think that's kind of TBD. I think that our plan right now is to continue the work, but I think that we recognize that we want to give a robust testing period, both internally and externally. And then so I think that we'll continue the work, but it just allow ourselves more time for the implementation and testing. So when you said, will it delay kind of the start of that work, I don't think so. I think that will continue on, but it'll just give us a longer runway to the implementation.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Alda. Okay, Geeta, please go ahead.
Hi, Trang. I have a question. Our UAA tried to provision CRR, external MUI user, that with an NDA that currently is provisioned in production. But when we tried to do it in map stage, it was not able to, the map stage environment wasn't available as a selection. So we have already emailed the UAA, CAISO UAA team, but should we open a ticket for the market sim? Would that help to kind of?
Yeah, that definitely would help, Geeta. So as far as I'm aware, production AIM is enabled for map stage provisioning of CRR. So there's no additional configuration that we have to do. So we definitely want to make sure that we remove that roadblock for you. So if you can open up a map stage city, and then we'll take a look at that. You can also forward that to marketsim@kaiso.com as well. So, Geeta, are you still there?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, okay, thank you. All right. So I will continue on then, past 881. All right, and then the last two implementations we have here are still being scheduled, so we don't have any additional milestones for you for enabling NGRs for inter-SC trades. Any questions or comments on this? Again, there's no change, but we'll leave it in here as an upcoming item. I may move it out until we have a schedule, but I'll leave it maybe at the end of the presentation for reference. Okay, and then the last one is the FAB enhancement. So again, we had the version 1.1 of the BRS that was made available, and the comment period has since closed. And that is for this one scope item, dynamic ATSR limits safety net that we're planning for this year, but we're still working on developing the schedule. So any questions or comments on this? All right. Okay, so this is additional information for that one, and then we'll go into fall 2025 release. Chenyi, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm looking for information for the CPM track 1, which is target to implement in April. Any information on that? Yeah.
So we were just having the discussion with our team about if that will have a BRS and what that expectation is. So I don't have that in here, but I will queue it up for the next RUG. And then I may just add a slide in here and then repost the presentation, but definitely by the next RUG, we'll have CPM.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's move on to fall 2025. So this is subscriber PTO model, which we've seen, and I've just moved it from a future initiative to the fall release. So we are still, so this is still tentative as we work through the planning and building out the schedule for it, but we are targeting for it to follow the fall timeline. So what does that mean if it follows the traditional fall 2025 annual functional release timeline? It means that we would plan for settlement config guides in March, and then tech specs in April, BPM changes in April, and then training June through September, and then market simulation scenarios in April, market simulation June through August, and then the production deployment and activation October. So this is, again, very tentative right now, but wanted to communicate just if that followed the normal fall release timeline, those would be our targets, and we still have to, again, build out our schedule and validate each of these dates. Okay. All right. So more to come on this, but we wanted you to be aware that it is on the horizon for this year. Any questions or comments on this? All right. Can you please go ahead?
Yeah, I have a quick question. I also noticed there on the policy side, there is a PTO discussion. Is the same initiative
It's separate, actually.
about? Oh, it's different.
Yeah, it's related. It's related, but that is different. Different scope. So if you look, this is subscriber PTO model, and then the other one has, I don't remember it off the top of my head, but it is a different flavor of the subscriber PTO model. So this is the initial implementation, and then the following that's in the stakeholder page with a slightly different name that's in active policy discussion that will be a separate implementation scope. Yeah.
Okay.
And again, this BRS for the subscriber PTO model, that is out there already. And so you can review that implementation scope, which again is separate from that policy discussion of the related scope. Okay.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I'll add a note to clarify that here too. All right. Good. So TEA, no changes here besides the timeline. Again, if this follows a traditional fall schedule, we'll plan for market sim in July and an activation by October. Any questions or comments here? All right. So let's move on to spring 2026 release. Okay, no changes to the timeline that we've communicated here. And the training schedule is still on track, and so you'll see the first opportunity to engage with training in April of 2025. And then one other general slide before I go into the to Alva and then the other individual slides. So from a settlements perspective, if you engaged with the settlement user group last week, you'll see that we published updates to the DANE EDM ISO/BA participation rules settlement technical documents on January 30. So all the tiers that were published, version 1 to 3, have been updated, and you'll find those on the release planning page, and you can distinguish those that were updated versus those that weren't by looking at the posted date and referring to the ones with the posted date of January 30. You can use Citi to ask any questions on the settlements artifacts there, and then the settlements team will be happy to review those and get back to you. And then the notes below just are from the settlement user group communication, which just further outlines what updates we made, and we did send out a communication after the stocks were posted on January 30. And then just as a reminder looking ahead is that we do have the first DANE EDM config output file scheduled for April 29, and then we'll have another round of the updated tech doc posting and the charge code matrix. Okay. So you'll see this update reflected in the individual project milestones, but I wanted to give that general update just because the settlements items are all intertwined with these 3 initiatives. Okay. All right, Alva, please go ahead.
Hi, this is in reference to we've been getting some information about the parallel testing, and we're rather confused about. I mean, we're expecting to be involved in that, and it sounded like there was some information indicating that it would not be possible for CAISO market participants to be involved in the parallel testing. I just wanted you to either correct or explain that.
Yeah, thank you, Alva. So I will kind of give some background into that discussion and how we landed here, and then also where we are now and what we need to do going forward. So typically, when we have parallel operations, so that activity was created for testing in the stage environment for WEIM onboarding entities. As we started the EDAM planning process, and then have a similar activity, actually even for the RC onboarding that we did before, we had a parallel operations period, which served the same purpose. This was a testing activity in the stage environment for onboarding entities to meet their readiness criteria for production activation. So for WEIM, that was the definition of parallel operations onto RC. And then when it came to the EDAM onboarding activity, naturally, it just seems like it's an extension of that, where it's EDAM onboarding entities that will have the stage environment to meet their readiness criteria in order to activate and become EDAM in production. So, the default when it came to EDAM parallel operations was that it was for onboarding EDAM entities only. So the first one being PAC, and then for PGE, and then those that follow after that. And I think that so that's kind of where some of the confusion was, or where we are now as far as the response on expectations of parallel operations. However, as you know, the ISO is also going to become an EDAM entity with this activation in spring of 2026. So we know that this is a little bit different than the previous parallel operations, but we don't have the details yet on how that will work as far as the ISO EDAM areas engagement. So we recognize that this is different, and we need to set some expectations for how the ISO area will be engaged in parallel operations, but we don't have that yet. So we're working on incorporating that into the parallel operations plan that you see drafted out there to further specify expectations for engagement of those within each of the EDAM areas, including the ISO BA area. So I know that doesn't give you an answer right now, but I do want to recognize that we notice that there is confusion and kind of where that came from and what we're doing now. So
yeah, and I think your point about it being a new, there's a lot of novelty for CAISO market participants as well as new entities would indicate that there's a need at a minimum for us to be able to continue to really exercise the system in the run up to production. I think it's a little. We were concerned about the idea that we were going to do market simulation. Of course, there's all kinds of questions of discovery of issues that then have to be fixed, and then we have a period of months where we are not able to continue testing and continue to refine what our processes as well. So I think we'd strongly lobby for CAISO market participants to have access to a full market system during that period. If you had to have a separate system for new EDAM entities other than CAISO, that might make sense, although it sounds like a burden. But I think we expect to be able to continue to prepare actively in the market simulation environment prior to production. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alva, for bringing that to light too, and giving me the opportunity to kind of explain, our responses to date, and then, and why that was. So understood. We know that this is already a significant effort, and I think that we'll have more discussions with you as far as what the need is, and then evaluate where that takes place. So whether if that's additional testing in the map stage environment or some level of engagement in the stage environment, then, we can work through some of those details, and we owe it to you to communicate. And we will include that in our external testing plans that we've got published. So
excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. All right. Okay, so I don't see any other hands raised or comments, so I'll go to the individual milestone slides for each of these projects. So for DAME, you can see again under the settlements config guide space that this does reflect the updates from the overall settlement slides. So I won't go over those in more detail. And then what we have upcoming is the, in April 2025, we will have the PRRs. So the official PRRs will start coming out in April of this year for DAME. And then for the configurable parameters, we do have the implementation working group kickoff in August of this year. And then those will continue on monthly after, starting from October, I believe. And then for training, we already have the training that was summarized in the earlier slide, and then the market simulation and production activities as well. So no other changes here for now. Any questions or comments on DAME specifically? All right. So moving on, we have a lot of reference slides for the DAME configurable parameters working group, and we look forward to the kickoff of call in August for this, but there's no changes to these slides, so I'll go through those. Okay, next we have EDAM. So for EDAM, you don't see on here, but we do have version, but I did mention it earlier, for version 1.4 of the BRS, we're planning to publish that by February 21st, and that will have an associated comment period. And then moving down to settlement config guides, the two activities that I mentioned earlier are also reflected here as it spans across the 3 projects in this program. And then we have PRRs. While you don't see the dates listed, all listed here, these should be aligning with the PRR schedule for DAME in April. And then we have market simulation and parallel operations and the onboarding for this. Okay, Alva, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Trang. Just on the BPM, the BPM publication showing here, is there not an expectation that the BPMs for DAME would have to have some material relevant to EDAM, or is your expectation that what you're going to be publishing in April is going to be entirely exclusive of EDAM?
That is not my expectation. So I need to confirm, but my expectation would be that they're combined,
Yes.
the PRRs. So we don't want to have multiple PRR processes, especially for the same PR for implementations that are happening at the same timeline. So we just need to align the dates here for EDAM. So I'll confirm that expectation, which makes a lot of sense, I think, and is our happy path forward, that it would just be combined with DAME.
Great.
And then we'll include the
happy
date.
path. So thank you.
Definitely. Thank you, Alva. Yep. All right. Okay, no other hands, so I'll go ahead on to EDAM ISO/BA participation rules. Again, we have, so actually I'll go to the milestone slide and talk through some of these. So again, we did file in November, and we asked for a response by February. I think that by the end of February for our last filing. We have BRS 1.4 with calculation examples and updates to the EDAM cross references. So that was minor updates, but it does initiate a new comment period. So please do review the latest BRS version up through 1.4 and provide any comments for any of the BRS versions through 1.4 in the commenting tool. We have the same settlements updates that were provided here. And then we still, for the market sim area, we still are working through getting the scenarios published. We did revise the market sim plan to include this initiative, but it will have its own unique scenario document. And so we're working on getting that out this month. And then the market simulation and production activities align with DAME and EDAM. Any questions or comments here? All right. No changes to WEAM, BHE Montana, and Black Hills. So we will continue to prepare for the market simulation plan to start in December of this year, coordinated with the DAME and EDAM activities. So this is shown in the timeline visual that we had in the beginning of the spring 2026 release section. So you can look at that for where it coincides with DAME and EDAM ISOBA participation rules. Okay, all right. And then that takes me to the end for settlement upgrade project. Again, we're doing a lot behind the scenes as far as firming up the schedule and rebaselining it. And so our next quarterly update would be in April. So we'll work to, we'll try to have some more meaningful update by then, if not sooner, for settlement upgrade project. And that is, oh yeah, go ahead, Jenny.
Yeah, this is Chenyu. So I guess I want to follow up on maybe one of the conclusion on the 2025 release. Is the scope final at this point, or actually we shall expect some updates in the coming weeks or coming months?
That's a good question. So I would say let's try to confirm by through the end of this month. So again, that'll give us time to just validate the schedule for the items that are queued up for the fall release, for example, and then also I'll dig into the remaining independent items that we don't have schedules for. The last two items in the independent section, and then I'll do another review of the other items that are working their way through to see if there are any realistic candidates that could potentially be added. So I would say through the end of this month, we can have a pretty good idea of at least the candidates. And even if we don't have schedules for them, if they're candidates, I can add them into the presentation as tentative. And I know that, I think we need to step back and just recommit that the ISO knows that the priority for DAME for 2025, 2026 is DAME and EDAM implementation. And so we are trying not to add anything to the 2020 during that time period in general. So you saw that when we moved settlement upgrade past DAME and EDAM, and we want to be really sure that we don't add anything, add the burden on top of the DAME and EDAM work for the ISO or for customers. So I don't anticipate that there will be anything added, but I will still review and then provide some information on that.
That's great. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks. Yep. All right. And Alva, please go ahead.
Yeah, this is direct follow-up on what Chenyu had raised. So the one area that seems to be a loose end is the change in BCR that was approved at
Yes.
FERC. Are you going to be implementing that this year, and will there be some formal plan around that and any testing?
Thank you, Alva, for reminding me to bring that up. So yes, so those that are following along, there's the BCR changes. That is a candidate for 2025, and we realize it's that there's a big financial impact that we're hoping to remediate with that implementation before I think the T+11 or so. I don't remember the settlement timeline that it impacts, but that is in the queue, and so I will add that. And so does that answer your question, Alva? Are we implementing this year? We are strongly, we are targeting for this year. And again, it's, we don't take lightly those types of decisions, but we do realize that there's a big financial impact, and that we want to make sure that we reduce that and minimize that financial impact for our customers, and that's why we're hoping to get that in this year as well. So I'll add that one for sure.
That sounds good. I mean, potentially it affects the behavior of batteries during stressed periods too. So yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, you're right. Yeah. Thank you for the reminder on that. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so our next release user group is in 2 weeks, February 18, and these are all on the calendar already throughout the rest of the year. And I'll make some revisions to this presentation. We will repost it along with the recording. And you can always reach out for any questions or comments via email or Citi. And that is the end of our presentation today. So thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to talking to you again soon. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Trang.